So, does the Big 12 have a Deion Sanders problem? I think so.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so that way you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage because we got a lot of fun things to talk about. We've been covering the Deion Sanders to the NFL saga. We've been covering the East-West Shrine Bowl. I'm here in Frisco. The Shrine Bowl is taking place tomorrow in Arlington. It'll be fun. I'll be there getting some content with guys like Jimmy Horn, LeJohntay Wester, Will Shepard, and hopefully some Shedeur Sanders and Cameron, some of Craig pieces as well. But let's talk about the Big 12's Deion Sanders problem. Now, you hear the word problem and Deion Sanders, and you automatically probably think that I'm going in the direction of Deion Sanders has done something wrong or Deion Sanders has done something that no one likes, blah, blah, blah. No, it's the other way. The Big 12 has a clear-cut Deion Sanders problem. And what I mean by that is people only watch the Big 12 for Deion Sanders. And let me explain. Let me elaborate. Let me expound. So the metrics are in, the numbers are in. The 100 most watched games of this past college football season were revealed, and as you would expect, the order wasn't too shocking, right? It was the SEC, the Big Ten, and then appearances by conference in the top 100. 82 by the SEC, 56 by the Big Ten, 26 by the Big 12, and 20 by the ACC. So not too shabby, right? Well, when you look at the numbers, it gets a little bit more concerning because Colorado is overwhelmingly carrying the Big 12. And this is according to pointed out by Football Scoop, not according to, pointed out. The Big 12, Colorado had 11 total appearances, and they were responsible for the appearances of BYU, Kansas, and Utah, and for Texas Tech and Kansas State's regular season appearance. The Big 12 did not have a non-Colorado regular season game crack the top 100, while the ACC, who I think a lot of people are comparing the Big 12 to, had 4 of those games. Obviously, it's one of those things where the ACC has brands like Clemson, Florida State. Florida State had the advantage of playing week 0 against Georgia Tech when no one was playing. So it's one of those things where obviously there's always going to be a metric that really supports whatever your train of thought is. But that being said, I think it's pretty clear that Colorado is carrying the conference, not on the field yet. Maybe that'll happen somewhere down the line, but they're carrying the conference in popularity. And I think they need to be rewarded as such. So that way, again, and this is sort of tying into keeping Coach Prime happy at Colorado, right? The Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, his main priority isn't keeping Deion Sanders happy. Like, that's not his job. His job is to do what's best for the conference. Well, actually, he's done that before, right? He's helped out Colorado a little bit before because he paid them $2.5 million to leave the Pac-12. That was a little added bonus. None of the 3 other 4 corner schools got a bonus because Colorado was the first one to jump over. And so they got a little gracious 2.5, thank you for coming over, little bonus. That being said, I think the Big 12 needs to look into possibly paying Colorado a bit more. And it's just not Colorado. And I think this is where if I lost you, I may get you back, right? I think the Big 12 needs to think as a conference that is forward-thinking, that is fluid, right? The Big 12 is not the SEC. The Big 12 is not the Big 10. The Big 12, I think, is better than the ACC, but the ACC at the end of the day has bigger brands, Clemson, Florida State. They don't really have Notre Dame, but it feels like Notre Dame's like a de facto ACC team. But it's one of those things where Colorado is obviously drawing in millions of viewers, 11 appearances in the top 100 games. And they had some heavy hitters in that list, right? I don't think people really understand just how much Like, I think people hate watch Colorado, but at the end of the day, they're watching. Colorado had the second most views, or had the second most appearances in college football, tied with Georgia and Texas. They each had 11. Ohio State, who won the championship, had 12. So obviously they kind of had that built-in advantage of playing in the championship, which is an automatic extra game. But let's just talk about their games, right? BYU, Colorado, 26 million. That was the Alamo, or 26 million, ranked 26. That's the Alamo Bowl game. 8 million, highest ranked bowl game that wasn't a CFP game. Then you go to Colorado, Kansas, 6.2 million. That was on Fox. That was obviously for Colorado to kind of keep their playoff hopes, Big 12 hopes alive. Colorado, Nebraska, 5.6 million. That was on NBC. North Dakota State, 4.76 million on ESPN. Utah, Colorado, 4 million. That was 73rd. Colorado, Texas Tech was 78. Baylor, Colorado, 79. Oklahoma State, Colorado, 80. Kansas State, Colorado, 91. And then Colorado, Colorado State was number 93. So Colorado's littered throughout. And I think we're the people who might be like, oh my gosh, why is this guy saying that Colorado should be rewarded? Well, if Colorado is your biggest brand, right, you pay them as such, right? You keep the biggest brands happy. And so I'm not saying you pay Colorado all the time, but I do think that there should be a bonus, right? If you have, say you get a most watched game, right? Throw them $500K, right? And so Colorado had 11 of these games. And so if with using my system here, which I don't know what the number would be, I'm obviously not I'm not in those boardrooms where they're talking about what they can give programs, but that would give Colorado an extra 5.5 million. And at the end of the day, the more money you are giving these Big 12 programs, whether it's Colorado or say it's Utah, right? Say next year Utah, for whatever reason, is just attracting big audiences, and it's one of those things where like they say they have 7 games, right? And you give them the $500,000, that gives them 3.5 million to spend into the program, to pay players, whatever it is. You could use that money. And so I think the Big 12 needs to capitalize on Colorado being popular. And I don't say help them get good, because obviously that you don't want a conference sort of like feeding one team, like giving them more love, but you want the Big 12 badly needs to stay relevant. Arizona State did a great job making a playoff run. Obviously, it didn't translate to popularity, right? Their only appearances, their only appearance was on the list was their playoff game, and that's not shocking considering they were, they had 2 appearances. The Big 12 championship was 35th, 6.9 million viewers. So Colorado's Alamo Bowl got more viewers than the Big 12 championship did. Not great for the brand. And then they played against Texas in the Peach Bowl, which, again, playoff game. So you expect to get views. But either way, you want these brands in the Big 12 to continue to grow. And how do you grow a brand? Well, you become good at football. That's for one, right? Not every program in the country has Deion Sanders. Not every program in the country will have Deion Sanders, and no one in the country can replicate what he brings to the table. Like, I don't think Michael Vick at Norfolk will be as popular. I don't think Deshaun Jackson at Delaware State will be as popular. Whoever it is, Eddie George, he's a head coach at Tennessee State, I believe it is. Not as popular, right? For whatever reason, and it's because Deion Sanders has been in the limelight, the public eye for so long. People like Deion Sanders. He's outspoken, he's entertaining, he's kind, he's thoughtful, and he's got a huge personality, and people love that. And so I think the Big 12 can afford to sort of give little bonuses here and there. And I think that'd be a good way to reward Colorado. I think that'd be a good way to incentivize Deion Sanders in Colorado to continue to sort of be at the focal point of the conference, right? Because the Big 12, and I think this is where people are sorely mistaken about the direction that college football is headed in, right? We have on one side, there's the ACC, who has Clemson, Arizona State, Clemson and Florida State, who they want to be paid more, right? They want to get more media rights money. So what did the ACC do? They gave them incentives. Like, if you win this or whatever, you get this, right? And so I think that's a way to go, right? If you're not the SEC or the Big 10, you have to figure out a way to keep your big brands happy. And right now, Colorado, by the numbers, is the biggest brand in the Big 12. I'm not saying they're the most successful. I'm not saying they're the best team in the Big 12. They are, by the numbers, the most popular brand in the Big 12. And I think they need to be compensated as such. Now, obviously, I think you should also be compensated for making the playoff and stuff like that. But I mean, the Big 12 is getting creative, right? It was reported back in June that the Big 12 was considering private equity. Now, I don't know if they're going to do it, but again, and this is what the report said, on the table, there was a possible cash infusion of $800 million to $1 billion from Luxembourg-based CVC Capital Partners in exchange for 15 to 20% stake in the league. A portion of the money would go directly to the 16 conference members, and the partnership would give the conference access to CVC's investment services and clients. And the place has over $200 billion in investments worldwide. And obviously, it's one of those things where, again, no one's ever done it. I think as a conference like the Big 12, it doesn't hurt to take risk because you don't have, and like this is what the Big 12 is missing. They don't have a historic program like say Texas or Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State or Michigan, right? They don't have not only a historic program, they don't have a blue blood, right? They don't have frequent success in the playoff, and they also have this problem of the league is so competitive that they take each other out, the Big 12 teams take each other out. Like Kansas takes out Colorado, takes out whoever. And it's like, okay, at the end of the day, it's the Big 12 is super competitive, but at the same time, it hurts itself. And I think that was kind of the Pac-12's problem as well. So the Big 12 needs a way to give their programs a competitive advantage over other programs across the country, right? And the Big 12 needs to figure out a way to sort of continue to establish popularity, right? This is a prime, I think Colorado being in so many games in the top 100 is a big deal for the Big 12, but at the same time, it's kind of concerning that you couldn't really get any other teams. You couldn't get other teams out there. Like West Virginia made it, but it was because they were playing the backyard brawl against Pitt, right? It's just you look at these teams or these games, and it's like, okay, what are these two teams like? What is so exciting about Nebraska, Indiana, right? Obviously, Indiana was good, but you know what I mean? Virginia Tech, Miami, 3.26 million views. What do they have that the Big 12 doesn't, right? The Big 12 has really good football, and I think the best way to help the Big 12 gain popularity is by helping these teams get better. And to get better, you need more money. And simple as that. Now, I think my system could be a little flawed, but again, I'm not the thinkers in the room where it happens. I'm not the Alexander Hamiltons of the world. I know that. But at the end of the day, I think that there could be a little something given for teams who are like a team like Colorado, who is boosting the conference's brand instrumentally. And I don't know if it will happen, but I do think that the Big 12 needs to figure out a way to, one, capitalize on Deion Sanders' popularity, and two, reward him for the popularity before he sort of maybe gets tired of being like the face of the Big 12 without reaping any of the rewards. So that's what I think. You guys comment below. Should the Big 12 be paying Colorado and or other teams money for being in some of the most viewed games, right? Should they give them a little chunk of the change? Let me know what you guys think. We can duke it out in the comment section as usual. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the latest mock draft from Mr. Bucky himself, as I just talked to him yesterday. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. And let me tell you about FanDuel, right? It's important time of the year sports-wise. The Super Bowl's here, and there's no better time to get in on the action than with FanDuel Sportsbook, because whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you could adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you could place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow, so that way you don't miss out on a moment of that coverage. Let's talk about Bucky Brooks's 2025 NFL mock draft. I thought this would be fun to talk about because literally yesterday I was at the East-West Shrine Bowl practice and I go, hey, Bucky, question for you. What would it take for Shedeur Sanders to be taken number one? And he gave this response, and I wanted you guys to hear it so that way you could sort of sort of, I want to put words in his mouth, but that way you can hear what he had to say about the situation and sort of we could interpret it together.
Sanders going number one or in the top three? What do you think he needs to do or somehow it'll play out?
Well, I think a lot of it is fit and scheme. Like when you're talking about at the top of the board with the quarterback position, it's about how do you fit within the coach and the scheme that the coach wants. At the top of the board, when you're talking about Shedeur and Cam Ward, which one is a better fit? Which one is a more polished player? Which one is ready to play? And which one can jumpstart the program where he gets into? I think he has a chance. I think a lot of it is
a little technical difficulty there. I decided to press buttons at the wrong time, so we'll try that again. But this was Bucky Brooks on what Shedeur Sanders should be, obviously, or what it would take for him to be in the number one pick.
Sanders going number one or in the top three? What do you think he needs to do or somehow it'll play out?
Well, I think a lot of it is fit and scheme. Like when you're talking about at the top of the board with the quarterback position, it's about how do you fit within the coach and the scheme that the coach wants. At the top of the board, when you're talking about Shedeur and Cam Ward, which one is a better fit? Which one is a more polished player? Which one is ready to play? And which one can jumpstart the program where he gets into? I think he has a chance. I think a lot of it is showing and convincing the evaluators and decision makers that he's ready to be the face of the franchise. He's done that at Jackson State, he's done it in Colorado. Now it's just making them feel comfortable with the process.
Okay. So what do you
Okay, so we saw what he said there. It was about scheme. It's about fit. It just depends who has the top pick, right? And I thought it was a great point because I think oftentimes we go, okay, this guy's the best guy there. Like this is the best quarterback in the draft. And it's like, well, in a draft like this where there's not a clear consensus number one, you have to go scheme and fit, right? If you have a really bad offense line, maybe you don't go Shedeur Sanders, right? Or maybe you do. I mean, it depends on how you feel, right? He took a lot of sacks in college. He can run, but he doesn't very often. He's tough though. So if you're like, we need a quarterback who could take some hits, Shedeur Sanders. If you want a quarterback who's going to be an avid part of the run game, Cam Ward, right? Or Jalen Milroe, like whoever it is. Like, so you really have to base it on fit, and it's not just who's better. But it is interesting. So I talked to Bucky yesterday, and this was his number. This is his mock draft 1.0. He had Shedeur Sanders going number one overall to the Tennessee Titans. He said second-year head coach Brian Callahan and new general manager Mike Borgonzi. I'm pretending I said that right. Mike Borgonzi jumpstart the Titans rebuild with a franchise quarterback boasting big game moxie and experienced engineering program turnaround. So he's sort of building it off the fact that Shedeur helped turn Colorado around. He helped turn Jackson State around, and so now he could turn an NFL franchise around. He has Abdul Carter from Penn State going number two. He said, despite an obvious need at quarterback, he thinks the Browns will opt to pair Carter with Myles Garrett, which would give them, honestly, two really good edges. So I see what he did there. Number three, he had Cam Ward going to the New York Giants. He said, the selection of this alpha dog quarterback gives the Giants the competitive leader they need to bounce back from a couple of disappointing seasons. And then number four is where Travis Hunter comes into play. He said, new head coach Mike Vrabel's personal experience as a two-way player. I love that. I didn't even think about that, but I love that. Could help the Patriots maximize the Heisman Trophy winners' potential as a combo playmaker in the NFL. So clearly, he kind of views Shedeur Sanders as the perfect fit, or I won't say perfect. I don't want to put that in his mouth, but pause. I won't say the perfect fit, but he views Shedeur as a better fit for the Tennessee Titans because he has that ability to go to a bad program or team and help fix it. Right? I think a lot of people get discouraged by that, and obviously, if you're a quarterback taken in the top few picks of the NFL draft, you're probably going to a bad team. That's usually how it works, right? Unless you're like Patrick Mahomes, who you don't go to a top team, but you also don't go to a bad team, and then all of a sudden you help turn that team into a dynasty, right? Most of the time, the top quarterbacks are going to a terrible team. And so for Shedeur to sort of have experience already dealing with that, I know he wants to win. I know he's a competitive guy, but it could be a good fit. So we'll see how that goes. I think the Tennessee Titans would be an interesting one because I think when we thought of Shedeur, or at least I was thinking of like the extremes. It's like the New York Giants, major market. Las Vegas Raiders, major market. Obviously, they're both terrible. Cleveland Browns, not major market, terrible development. And it's like we're thinking of these three teams. It's like the Browns, it's the Titans, or the Browns, the Giants, and the Raiders. The Browns, the Giants, the Raiders, and then all of a sudden it's like the Tennessee Titans have the number one pick, and it's like, It's like, do we think that Coach Prime wants his son to go to the Tennessee Titans? I don't know. Right? Do the Tennessee Titans have a history of developing quarterbacks? Not really. Do they have a history of success? Not really. But are they the Cleveland Browns? Also no. So Tennessee Titans getting Shedeur would be quite interesting. We'll just have to see how it unfolds. When we come back, we're going to be talking about a little bit of Colorado hoops, and it's not going to be for a positive reason. I can tell you that. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow, so that way you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. I know we talk a lot of football on here, but I do think we need to talk a little bit of hoops just because Colorado is struggling. Tad Boyle, he's in year 14 with Colorado. They've been to 6 tourney appearances. They went to the Sweet 16 last year. They had a nice little run. There was, I think it was a round 1 game winner against Florida, right? They had a really cool moment there, but they're 9-11 this year, and they have a Big 12 record of, and I don't know how many games they played. I know they haven't won one yet. I think it's 0-7 or something, right? Let me see. Let me pull up the standings, the good old Big 12 standings, just to confirm. Or 0-9. So 0-9 Big 12. They actually have the worst record in the conference at 9-11 overall. The only other teams that are There's only 2 teams actually in the Big 12 that are below 500, and it's Kansas State 8-11, and then Colorado 9-11. So obviously not great. Colorado's lost 9 in a row. It's getting really ugly. They're 1-3 against AP top teams and 1-3 against USA Today top teams as well. So it's one of those things where I don't think that people realize that basketball's not, how do I say this? Basketball's not the driving force of any school, but it is very helpful if your football and your basketball team are good at the same time. It makes your program a lot of money. So I think with Tad Boyle getting up there in age, I think it's tough to really see the digression or the decline from last year, right? They lost everyone to the portal or the NBA draft, and it was like you're supposed to reload, and there was no reloading, right? I think it was just one of those things where it's like, this is the roster that we have, right? We couldn't recruit anybody. We couldn't get any big transfers. We couldn't retain some transfers. So I think Tad Boyle's days in Boulder will be numbered. I'll have a basketball insider come on the show sometime in the near future, so we can dive more into that if you guys are interested. But yeah, I think Tad Boyle's time in Boulder could be numbered. But other than that, this has been Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, so make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, so that way you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. Thank you guys for making me your first listen. Make sure to like, subscribe, give me 5 stars, and I will see you tomorrow.